Hey family, welcome back to the channel, Celebrityscandalust. Citing fair use for review and commentary of this work, I will be reading excerpts and not word for word of this copyrighted material, Bling by Erica Kennedy. So just a quick recap, we are in chapter 2, and so far there's been a meeting between Lamont and Irv. And so Irv is going to be ousted from his position at Augusta Records. Lamont wants to take his position, and these two are, pretty tight business partners. So Irv is okay with Lamont succeeding him. We're seeing that Lamont is, trying to get a girl group, a R&B girl group, so that he can present it and, show, the board at Augusta Records that he should be the person to succeed Irv. And there are 3 girls that have auditioned at Triple Arch Records, his company, and they're waiting to hear back from Lamont and hear whether or not they're going to be signed. So remember, it's 3 girls, it's a girl group, and they're there with their manager in New York, and they're a little bit disappointed because they think that they're supposed to have the star treatment. They've seen this stuff on television, Making the Band and all of these shows. So they think, it's all this luxurious lifestyle, but they're in like a rundown hotel in New York, and so they're a little bit disappointed. This chapter picks up with Lamont, walking around the house, just thinking about the fact that he could possibly be the next chairman of Augusta Records. So it says, Lamont climbed the winding staircase to his home gym thinking, Lamont Jackson, chairman of Augusta Music. That had a nice ring to it. He'd be able to sell Triple Large to Augusta, but he'd still retain control of the label he'd founded, as well as run several others. How much would the deal reap? 60 million? Nah. Triple Large was worth about 75 at least. So he's doing his thing. He's getting on the treadmill. They're talking about his daily routine. So this guy is really into making sure that he's fit. So basically, he's the typical well-groomed, executive. He comes home after a hard day of work, gets on his treadmill, does a workout before he gets back out in the wind into the city. So they're kind of describing his daily routine. Like he's a man who's out and about, very, polished, very well dressed, and very into keeping himself up physically. These workouts were often the only time he spent alone in an entire day. At the office, he had his minions swarming around him and his faithful assistant Amani hovering nearby. At night, out at the most exclusive clubs, his entourage was always surrounding him. When traveling in his Maybach or Suburban, money green fully loaded, his driver Carlos was at the wheel, and when he finally fell asleep in the Tribeca triplex, there was almost always a gorgeous babe in the bed beside him. So then he goes on to describe the fact that he had previously had a trainer, because they're focusing on the fact that he really likes to work out and keep himself in shape. But apparently he had a trainer, and he got rid of the guy because he thought the man was gay. Now, this is a little interesting considering all the stuff. Well, for those of us who think that Lamont is Diddy, this is a little interesting because they use some very descriptive words of him describing whom he believes is a gay trainer, and he uses the F-bomb. Okay, so he seems a little homophobic, if you ask me. So he fired the trainer because he thought the guy was gay and was interested in getting with him. So then they go on to talk about his successes and, the fact that he had achieved multiple gold record status and, album sales, and how he had success with multiple acts and artists. But they're also talking about the fact that with the recent downloads, and of course this is back in the day, that with the streaming and everything, that the money in the industry has started to dry up a little bit. Like it wasn't the big boom that it had been previously, with the new technology and the way people were downloading music. A lot of the record labels were starting to, see a loss. And so he was trying to figure out a way to be competitive in this new environment. It says, Lamont didn't allow the word failure to be uttered by anyone within the ranks. In a slumping industry where music downloading had become an escalating problem and major labels were regularly laying off hundreds of employees, Posting profits was more difficult and more important than ever. So then they go on to talk about some of his big successes. One was Floss, a raspy-voiced West Coast rapper who wove biblical sayings into his rhymes about his ghetto fabulous lifestyle. So I thought that was interesting because I was like, who could that be? Tupac, but I don't know. And then they say this guy had a near-death experience. So then I said, well, I remember Kanye West had a near-death experience. Remember, he would talk about God, and he had his mouth wired shut and was still rapping. Remember, Through the Fire. But then but then it was kind of funny because they said they're talking about his rapper Floss, a raspy-voiced West Coast rapper, and they said he had become the label's resident sex symbol despite the fact that he had one prosthetic leg. So I'm like, oh Lord. I mean, I can't even imagine who that is. So if you guys, the only person I know who has something was Fetty Wap. Maybe he had a glass eye, but I don't know nobody that had a wooden leg or a prosthetic leg. And it says Floss gave a whole new meaning to the term hip hop. So that was kind of funny. Then he has another artist they talk about, Ridiculous. Apparently that was one of his big artists. At this point, I can't even imagine who it is. So Ridiculous, his name originally was Big Dick. So they're just kind of giving you a description of the type of, artist that he had previously been managing or that were, big at his record label. His artists were selling millions. Triple Arch Entertainment was doing great, but he still wanted to be big and better. He was very, very competitive. He was considered at the top of his game, and they say, that he was doing very well, but he wanted to be number one. Not just number one, he wanted to be the only one, okay? It's basically how they're describing him. So then they go on to say the R&B and hip-hop infused movie soundtracks, because they did soundtracks as well, that T.L. Lee produced have become a business unto themselves, and Lamont had formed a separate division around them, Triple Large Tracks. 10 soundtracks released in the last 5 years, and they'd all gone platinum. So just based on this information, they're just letting us know that Triple Large Entertainment was like one of the biggest and one of the most prosperous record companies around at that time in New York, one of the biggest labels. They were dominating the industry. Lamont was considered lodged in the top tier of black moguls. With his new label dominating the industry, Lamont was firmly lodged in the top tier of the crop of new black moguls, but he didn't want to be one of. He wanted to be king, the one and only. And as the new chairman of Augusta Music, that's what he would be. So that's the position he was gunning for. So now we're going to back to the hotel. The girls are still waiting to hear from their manager, Kenny. Apparently Kenny is out and about. He's trying to get some stuff together. They don't really focus on what he's doing. But the girls are all in the room together and they're waiting. It's like, they're just waiting. They had auditioned the day before and they're just waiting to hear back from the record label, Triple Large Entertainment, whether or not they're possibly going to get a record deal, okay? So remember Lamont had told Daryl, who was like his right-hand man, he wants to see the girl. Not all three of them, but just the one. And so we know now that that's Mimi. So now Daryl is contacting the girls, and so we'll get into that. The phone finally rang. While Toya tended to Keisha, Mimi walked through the adjoining door to answer it. It was probably her worrisome mother. She'd already phoned twice today. So Daryl calls and he's like, he wants to speak to Mimi. And she's like, this is Mimi. And he's, hey, this is Daryl from Triple Arch Entertainment. Is Kenny there? No. She was excited to hear from him. He went out. Oh, good. Look, meet me downtown at 5 o'clock. 86 Walker Street. Don't say shit to Kenny. Not a word. I don't know if we can get there by 5. Keisha's kind of sick right now. No. Just you. Don't say anything to them yet either, okay? Tell them you have to meet a friend or something, and I'll explain all the rest to you later. I'll meet you downstairs, take a cab, and I'll pay for it. But what? Don't stress me, Daryl cut her off. Just get down there by 5. You're already running late. So Mimi hangs up the phone, and she's like, she doesn't know what to do. I mean, of course they were excited. They were waiting to get the phone call that, possibly they were either going to go back to the record label or get, have a record deal. But Kenny is supposed to be handling all this. So she was really taken aback and surprised, and she didn't know what to do. And especially since he told her to come there alone. Now, to me, as a young, I'm assuming that they're young girls, probably in their 20s. They're in New York, all excited. I would be pretty leery going anywhere by myself without my girls, especially if we're a girl group, and without my manager. So this part was kind of shaky. I mean, I'm like, what? But, when people are desperate to be stars, I mean, that's how all this stuff starts, right? We stop using common sense. We get so starstruck and driven to be the person, or, for stardom, you start just making bad choices. So anyway, Mimi doesn't know what to tell the girls, right? Because, they're a trio. Those are her girls. Like, they've been down together since they were in school together for years. So she's like going back and forth with herself. Like, should I say something? I don't know what to say. He told me to come by myself. So now this is the first part with so many girl groups, so many groups in general, where, they always want to pick one star, and then it starts to tear the group apart, right? Because they single out one person. Oh, you're the star. You're the best looking. You have the best voice. So you really got to make a decision. Do you go for yourself, or do you stick with the group? When she walked back into the room, Keisha was lying on the bed with a wet rag on her face, moaning like she'd just given birth. Are you okay? Mimi said, kneeling beside her. No, Keisha moaned. Was that your mother again? No, Mimi said hesitantly. It was some guy, the son of my mom's friend. He lives here. He wants me to come meet him right now at this place around the corner. See, she already lying to her friends because she's already made the decision. She's going to go alone, right? And ain't going to tell them that Triple Arch Entertainment called. So she's thinking to herself, oh boy, I done gave too much detail. And she's, thinking, oh, I hope they can't tell that I'm lying, Despite Daryl's fierce warning, she wished she could talk to Kenny first before she did anything. Where the heck was he? He left almost 2 hours ago, and why couldn't he pay his cell phone bill? So Toya, so it's Keisha, Toya, and Mimi. Keisha's the other girl, and she's like, what? Like, where you going? What you talking about? And so Mimi's kind of stuttering. She just kind of trying to lie off the top of her head. Remember, they're in New York, and they're not from New York. So she's trying to give some excuses and to figure a way that she can get out of there by herself to, get back to the record label, like Daryl had told her. So as Mimi's telling them she's going to meet this guy, a friend of her mother's, some random stranger, it sounds like, they're just kind of questioning her, like, what? And so Keisha was like, Mimi, but what if they call? Like, you're going to leave? What if the record label calls? Because again, y'all, they don't know that the record label has already called. Not if, Toya corrected. They said they'd call today. So they're going to call. Well, they could call and say they want us, or maybe they could call and say they don't want us. Keisha countered, getting her energy back. So Mimi said, I'll call you guys in an hour. And she started changing out of her sweats and, trying to put on some cute clothes because she got to go to the record label. Mimi went to the closet and considered her clothing options. She couldn't wear the tight stretched jeans and crop peasant top she'd worn yesterday for the audition. Toya and Keisha had worn the exact same outfit, so Daryl would surely remember it. Besides, that look was a tad hoochie for her personal taste. During their search for the perfect audition attire, Keisha and Toya had nixed her more conservative suggestions. So Toya's like, girl, you don't even know this guy. Forget him. You running out, by yourself somewhere strange. Don't do that. And Mimi's like, I can't. I already committed and told him I was coming, so I gotta go. So she just kind of shrugged her shoulders, got dressed, put on a cute little turtleneck, looking cute. Toya's like, still asking questions. Now, remember, Mimi's lying, so this guy does not exist. Is he cute, girl? Who? Mimi like, who? She's like, the guy, the one you're going to meet. I don't know. I never met him. She was already lying. So best to leave it at that. So as she's getting dressed, combing her hair and everything in the bathroom, she's really torn. She's like, I want to tell him. She's putting her earrings on and she's just feeling so guilty that she can't share the good news with them. But hey, what can she do? She's just trying to follow instructions like Daryl told her. She was in such a rush. She didn't have time to do all the makeup and everything. She just knew she had a limited amount of time to get there because remember, he wanted her there by 5. She's struggling with herself to tell her girls, struggling with herself because Kenny is not there. So she just made it up in her mind. She'd have to do it alone, just like Daryl said, and she'd have to find out what he was up to, and then she would go back and tell the girls. So in her mind, to some degree, I think she's feeling guilty, but she's like trying to convince herself that it's okay for her to kind of lie to them because she's going to go there and represent them and come back and tell the girls the good news that they're all getting signed. Okay? So, she's just trying to make a justification in her mind. Like, it's okay. I'm just going to go. Kenny's not here, so I'm going to go alone, get the good news, and come back and share it with them. And then she says to herself, I'm the lead singer. Mimi told herself, I can handle this. Imagine if she could come back and tell them they had a deal. So she's just kind of toying with that in her mind, just, really trying to make the justification that what she's doing is right by not telling the girls what's really going on. Okay, Toya finally relented. A little late as Mimi was already grabbing her knitted poncho, suede bag, and heading for the door. Maybe he's cute. And maybe we're going to get signed. And maybe we're going to move here. And maybe we'll be famous. And maybe he'll be your man. Mimi just said, girl, let's not get ahead of ourselves. And she walks out the door. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens when she makes it to Triple Large Entertainment. So anyway, guys, that's chapter 2. And I'll see you on chapter 3. Jump in the comments and let me know your thoughts. Now, also, here's a little clip of Erica Kennedy. Some people are in the comments saying it's either Andre Harrell. Lamont is either Andre Harrell or L.A. Reid. I still am settling in on the fact that I think it's Diddy. And the reason I say that is because she makes too many, Erica Kennedy, before she passed, when she was talking about her book, she makes a few references about Diddy. And although I know this character, Lamont, is a combination of quite a few, probably based on quite a few of those record execs or, moguls, she drops his name too many times. So here's a little clip of her referencing P. Diddy, as well as a little news clipping. But anyway, jump in the comments and I'll see you on the next video. Bye.
I was an entertainment reporter. I did a lot of celebrity interviews with a lot of hip-hop artists that helped me give me material for the book.
How does it feel to have a first book out debut and then people be so lyrical about it?
It's exciting, but I think people like the book because it's a good book and it's funny and it's an entertaining read, but also because I think people are really fascinated by the hip-hop world. And this book really takes you behind the scenes and shows you like really what's going on in that VIP room at the P. Diddy party and what's going on in the Hamptons and at the record label, like what really happens. And I think that's part of the fascination people have with the book.